Laughter boomed through the opulent Oakwood Country Club, rattling antique porcelain teacups on polished cherrywood tables. "Are you serious, boy?" Mr. Alistair Finch leaned back in his velvet armchair, his pale blue eyes gleaming with icy amusement as he watched the 12-year-old black boy standing alone before his imposing desk, surrounded by a dozen senior club members. Adam Fletcher maintained the perfect composure his mother had taught him, his small hands clenched at his sides, holding tightly to a faded photograph. His mother's Distinguished Service Medal, Captain Sarah Fletcher, gleamed faintly on his thin chest, a painful reminder of why he was standing there in that humiliating moment, facing men who looked at him as if he were an unwanted stain on their pristine carpet. "Sir, I would like to request permission to use the exclusive Olympic-grade swimming pool today," Adam repeated in a steady voice, though his hands trembled imperceptibly. "It's the 3rd anniversary of my mother's death in service, and I wanted to honor her by practicing swimming, as she taught me before she left for her last mission." Finch burst out, laughing even louder, slamming his hand on the table so hard that the other members' crystal glasses swayed precariously. "Did you hear that? The boy thinks he knows how to swim. What's next? He'll want to pilot our private jets, too." The other members around them began to chuckle as well, some whispering poisonous comments that Adam pretended not to hear. "Boys should be playing with toy soldiers," muttered Mr. Beaumont, a stout man with a monocle. "Little boys belong in school, not messing around in our pristine waters," added Mr. Caldwell, causing a new wave of cruel laughter. What Mr. Alistair Finch didn't know, and Adam kept as his most precious secret, was that Sarah Fletcher had not been an ordinary soldier. For 6 consecutive years, every afternoon after school, every Saturday and Sunday afternoon, Adam had trained tirelessly with a woman who secretly held the unofficial record for best long-distance swimmer in her military division. Records that were whispered only among the most experienced aquatic commandos, but never officially recognized. 3 years ago, when the tears were still fresh and the pain of loss pierced his chest like a cold knife, Adam had made a whispered promise at the grave covered by the Union Jack, a promise that no one else had heard, but one he carried like a burning flame inside his heart, fueling every day of secret training he had undertaken since then. "Listen here, boy," Finch said, standing up and walking around the table with deliberately intimidating steps, his imposing figure casting a shadow over Adam. "This is no place for children to play soldier. Our pool is not a public bath. Go home, watch some cartoons, and let the adults take care of serious matters." The humiliation burned Adam's cheeks like hot iron, but he took a deep breath, feeling something familiar grow inside him. Not pure anger, but something much more powerful and controlled. The same icy calm his mother had taught him to cultivate when the world tried to diminish him. When teachers doubted his intelligence, when classmates mocked his determination. "With all due respect, sir," he replied, his voice carrying a strange serenity that made some of the members stop laughing momentarily. "I have all the necessary documentation, proper supervision approved by the Military Family Affairs Department, and the health and safety requirements have been met. My request is within club regulations." Mr. Harrison, sitting to Finch's right, nearly choked on his espresso. "The little boy knows the regulations." "How cute." More laughter echoed through the room. But this time, some of the members seemed slightly uncomfortable with the cruelty of the moment. It was then that Adam's eyes met Finch's for the first time with full intensity, and something in that gaze made his arrogant smile falter for a split second. There was something there, a quiet determination, a contained strength that seemed too big to fit in the body of a 12-year-old. It was the same look that war veterans carried, a serenity that only exists in those who have faced much worse storms and live to tell the story. Finch shook his head with theatrical disdain. "Stubborn little boy. Very well. Since you insist so much, how about we do a little test? If you can complete 5 laps of our Olympic pool in under 5 minutes, I'll personally sign your authorization. But when you fail miserably, I want you to promise never to bother important men with these childish fantasies again." Adam felt something ignite inside his chest, but he kept his face impassive. "I accept your proposal, sir." There, In front of all the looks of contempt and mockery, he stood firm like someone guarding a secret too powerful to be revealed before the right time. What those men didn't know was that Adam Fletcher wasn't there just to honor his mother. He was there to fulfill a promise that would turn the most painful humiliation of his life into the most epic demonstration that Country Club would ever witness. If this story of courage and determination is touching your heart, get ready to discover how a simple 12-year-old boy was about to rewrite the record books and humiliate some of the most arrogant elite members the city had ever produced. Finch's predatory smile widened like a shark that smells blood in the water. Perfect. Let everyone witness this lesson in knowing your place. He gestured theatrically to the other members. Gentlemen, let's head to the pool and watch a child learn about reality. Mr. Beaumont stood up, rubbing his hands together with cruel anticipation. This is going to be better than a movie. The little boy will run out crying before he can even dip a toe. The other members laughed like hyenas, already imagining the public humiliation that was to come. As they walked through the polished corridors of the club, Adam kept a few steps behind the group, listening to every poisonous comment they made without bothering to lower their voices. "I bet he'll faint at the first dive," whispered Mr. Caldwell. "Or he'll start crying for his mommy." What none of them knew was that Adam had been to that same pool hundreds of times. For 3 years since his mother's death, he had secretly come every Saturday morning at 5:30 a.m., when the club was still asleep. The pool attendant, a retired Marine who had served with Captain Sarah Fletcher, would quietly open the gate for him, an unspoken agreement between people who understood the true meaning of honoring the dead. Arriving at the Olympic pool, Finch pointed to the starting blocks. "Pick your lane of humiliation, little boy. I recommend one near the shallow end. Maybe you'll at least be able to touch the bottom without drowning." Adam walked to the starting block with the same calm he had shown in the main lounge. His fingers traced the smooth edge before he settled on lane 4, his mother's favorite. "Interesting choice," Finch commented with feigned interest. "At least you have good taste in failing with style." More laughter echoed through the group, but some of the club staff who had gathered to watch the show seemed less convinced of the amusement. Mr. Roberts, the club's head swimming instructor, approached with an uncomfortable expression. He had known Sarah Fletcher's reputation. "Mr. Finch, perhaps we should consider additional supervision for the minor." "Nonsense," Finch cut him off abruptly. "The boy wants to play soldier, so let him learn, like real swimmers. No armbands, no hand-holding." His voice carried a cruelty that made even some of his own subordinates frown. Adam stretched with such fluid, professional movements that Roberts blinked twice. He adjusted his goggles, checked the water temperature, tested the dive position. Every movement executed with the automatic precision of someone who had performed that routine thousands of times. Well, Finch murmured, his amusement growing. "Looks like Mommy taught you a few basic tricks before." "Well, before she wasn't around to protect you anymore." The cruel comment about Sarah's death made Adam's blood boil, but he kept his expression impassive. Then something unexpected happened. Adam closed his eyes for a few seconds, and when he reopened them, everyone present could see a subtle but profound transformation. The nervous 12-year-old boy had disappeared, replaced by something much more focused and dangerous. "Ready when you are," Adam said, his voice carrying an icy confidence that made some of the veterans present look at each other with recognition. It was the same tone experienced athletes used moments before carrying out impossible feats. Finch positioned himself at the edge of the pool with his arms crossed, surrounded by his members who whispered bets on how many laps Adam would fail to complete. "All right, little boy. 5 laps. Under 5 minutes. Remember, you only need to hit that to win our little agreement. It should be easy for someone with your family training." What those arrogant men didn't know was that Sarah Fletcher hadn't just been a good swimmer. She had been the unofficial coach for the most elite naval divers in her unit, the person other soldiers turned to when they needed to improve their skills for life-and-death underwater missions. And Adam had absorbed every lesson, every technique, every secret she had learned in 2 decades of military service. More importantly, They didn't know about the 847 hours Adam had spent training over the past 3 years. Every Saturday morning, every holiday, every free moment he had, all dedicated to honoring his mother's memory by becoming something she would be proud to see. When Adam took up his dive position, something in the atmosphere changed. The murmuring seemed to die down. The laughter ceased momentarily, and even Finch felt a strange chill down his spine, as if he were about to witness something that would change his understanding of many things. Each new taunt, each cruel comment, only fueled something inside him that his oppressors couldn't see, a silent strength being strengthened by the very injustice they sought to impose. What those privileged men didn't know was that every act of contempt was writing their own sentence of humiliation, and Adam Fletcher was about to become the executor of that long-delayed justice. Adam assumed the dive position with movements so fluid that Mr. Roberts frowned. There was something deeply familiar about that stance. The feet positioned with military precision, the shoulders aligned, the breath controlled. It was like watching a ghost from the past take shape before his eyes. "What are you waiting for, little boy?" Finch taunted, his voice echoing across the pool deck like a tuning horn. "Maybe you need some help with your strokes, or do you want someone to hold your hand?" The other members laughed like well-fed hyenas, satisfied with their own sense of humor. Adam closed his eyes for 3 seconds, exactly as his mother had taught him. "Take a deep breath, champ. Feel the water. Listen to the silence between your heartbeats. The perfect stroke happens in that moment of stillness." Sarah's voice echoed in his memory like a whispered prayer. When he opened his eyes again, something had completely changed in the atmosphere. Several club members passing by stopped to watch, drawn by a different energy emanating from the small figure standing on the starting block. It was as if an invisible switch had been flipped. "Ready when you give the signal," Adam said, his voice carrying a supernatural calm that made even Finch hesitate for a moment. It was then that Mr. Roberts approached discreetly. A veteran of 3 years managing Olympic pools, he had worked with Sarah Fletcher during some of her most rigorous training. Roberts knew exactly who had trained this boy and what that meant for the arrogant men who were about to receive the lesson of their lives. "Mr. Finch," Roberts said respectfully but firmly, "perhaps we should consider using the timer for everyone present for official record-keeping." Finch looked at him irritably. "Roberts, it's just 5 laps from a scared kid. We don't need full Olympic protocol to watch a failure in the making." Roberts nodded silently, but positioned himself strategically where he could observe the timer clearly. He knew something no one else there knew. Sarah Fletcher hadn't just been an exceptional swimmer. She had been the unofficial instructor for the club's most elite aquatic athletes, the person other members sought out when they needed to learn techniques that could shave crucial seconds off their times. "All right, little boy," Finch announced with growing cruel amusement. "You have 5 minutes for your 5 laps, starting now." Adam's dive was a clean, precise entry, slicing through the water with minimal splash. Before the ripple had even spread, his first stroke followed with a cadence that made several club members standing nearby straighten involuntarily. It was the rhythm of someone who had swum thousands of times, not hundreds. Through his stopwatch, Roberts watched Adam with growing admiration and terror. "My God," he whispered to himself. "He's faster than his mother." Finch was still chuckling when Adam completed his first lap, but his laughter began to sound forced. There was something about the fluidity of those strokes that didn't match his expectations of public humiliation. "At least he's quick," Mr. Beaumont commented, trying to keep the mockery in his voice. "Maybe he wants to get the embarrassment over with." What they didn't know was that Adam had spent the last 3 years not only practicing swimming, but studying every movement, every breath, every heartbeat his mother had taught him. For 95 consecutive days, he had woken up at 5 a.m. to practice in a makeshift pool behind his house, using resistance bands and endless drills. More importantly, they didn't know about the 847 hours of mental training Adam had developed. Concentration techniques that allowed him to completely block out external distractions and enter a state of focus that trained athletes took years to achieve. The second, third, and fourth laps followed with a mechanical precision that began to cause uneasy whispers among the observers. Even the members who had been mocking him began to exchange nervous glances. "He's going too fast to check the time," muttered Mr. Caldwell, his previous confidence beginning to waver. Roberts knew exactly why no one was rushing to check the first results. Some of the seasoned members present had already recognized the unmistakable efficiency, that distinctive glide that only happens when a swimmer is moving with perfect form and minimal effort. Adam continued swimming with unnatural calm. Each lap followed the previous one with perfectly timed intervals. There was no rush, no anxiety, just the systematic execution of a skill that had been forged through years of quiet dedication. The fourth lap made Finch stop laughing completely. The fifth created an absolute silence that spread across the pool deck like an invisible wave. When Adam prepared for the fifth and final lap, something extraordinary happened. Instead of maintaining his rhythm, he subtly increased his pace, compensating for a slight current in the water that no one else had noticed. It was the kind of instinctive adjustment that only truly exceptional swimmers made automatically. The last lap was completed with a finality that seemed to announce that something important had just happened. Adam touched the wall with fluid movements, pulled himself out of the water, and turned to face Finch directly. "5 laps completed as requested, sir," he said with perfect composure, dripping water onto the pristine tiles. For the first time since he had arrived at the pool, Finch looked genuinely uncertain about what he had just witnessed. There was something about Adam's calm confidence that didn't match the humiliation he had so carefully planned. Roberts approached with his stopwatch, preparing to verify what everyone already suspected, but no one wanted to admit out loud. The veteran instructor had seen many exceptional swimmers throughout his career, but he had never witnessed anything that so challenged his own expectations of what was humanly possible. What those arrogant men didn't know was that Adam Fletcher hadn't come just to fulfill a humiliating agreement. He had come to prove that some legacies are greater than the people who try to diminish them, and true strength often grows in the very places where others see only apparent weakness. The silence that followed Adam's last lap was so deep that everyone could hear the faint hum of the pool's filtration system. Roberts kept his eyes on the stopwatch, his expression gradually changing from professional curiosity to utter disbelief, then to something that looked almost like reverence. "Mr. Roberts," Finch said in a forced casual voice that carried a note of growing anxiety, "what's the result? I'm sure we can start preparing the lesson on reality for our young friend here." Roberts slowly lowered his stopwatch, his face pale as a sheet. For a few seconds, he simply stared at Adam with an expression that was a mixture of admiration and terror. "Mr. Finch," his voice came out, as if the words refused to leave his throat. I need you to check, personally." Finch grabbed the stopwatch roughly, his hands suddenly unsteady. When he looked at the display, his arrogant expression crumbled like a house of cards in a storm. What he saw defied not only his expectations, but his understanding of the limits of human ability. Adam had completed 5 laps in 3 minutes and 27 seconds. It was a time that shattered the unofficial club record, a time that professional swimmers struggled for years to achieve, executed by a 12-year-old boy as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "That's impossible," Finch muttered, checking and rechecking the stopwatch through his trembling hands. "It has to be some kind of trick, faulty equipment, something." Adam remained silent, watching the disintegration of the arrogance that had plagued him just minutes before. There was no cruel triumph in his expression, only the calm dignity of someone who had done exactly what he promised to do. Mr. Beaumont stepped forward, snatched the stopwatch from Finch's trembling hands, and checked for himself. His reaction was even more dramatic. He recoiled as if he had been physically punched. "My God, that time is better than anything I've seen in 20 years of competitive swimming." One by one, all the members checked the stopwatch. One by one, their confident expressions turned to silent shock. Mr. Caldwell, who had mocked the idea of a little boy's place, was completely speechless at the irrefutable proof of the competence he had underestimated. It was then that Roberts made a decision that would change everything forever. He approached Adam with reverential respect and said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "Adam, your mother would be the proudest woman on the planet right now." This demonstration not only honors her memory, but sets a new standard of excellence for this entire club. The words hit Finch like a cold wave. Suddenly, the implications of the entire situation crystallized in his mind. He had publicly humiliated and mocked the black son of a service hero killed in action, a child who possessed skills that exceeded those of anyone under his command. Worse, he had done so in front of witnesses, club members who were already whispering among themselves, some taking discreet photos with their cell phones. The story would spread throughout the entire club before the day was over, and beyond. The wealthy elitist who mocked a grieving black child and was humiliated by his exceptional competence. "How?" Finch finally managed to articulate, his voice sounding strange and distant. "How can a child swim like that?" Adam looked at him directly for the first time since he had arrived at the pool. "My mother taught me that respect is earned through actions, not words. She taught me that when someone doubts you based solely on prejudice, the best response is to demonstrate exactly what you are capable of." The devastating simplicity of the response struck everyone present like a bolt of lightning. Here was a 12-year-old black child offering a lesson in dignity and competence to senior club members who were supposed to be his role models. Roberts moved closer. "Mr. Fletcher, your mother mentioned you had natural talents, but she never specified." "She never said you were." He paused, searching for the right words. "Would you be interested in demonstrating your skills at longer distances? Perhaps the open water challenge?" Adam's eyes sparkled with genuine interest. "What distance do you have in mind, Sergeant? 1,000 meters? 2,000? Whatever's within your comfort zone." Finch watched this interaction with growing horror, realizing that his humiliation was only just beginning. The child he had tried to break publicly was about to demonstrate skills that will make his own supposed prowess look amateurish. More club members had joined the group, drawn by the whispers spreading through the club like wildfire. Some veterans of club sports approached with expressions of genuine respect, recognizing something special in what they were witnessing. Adam adjusted his goggles once more, his fluid, professional movements contrasting sharply with the growing nervousness of the members who had underestimated him. "Mr. Roberts, 2,000 meters would be a good next step." It was at that moment that Finch realized a terrible truth. Little Adam Fletcher hadn't just come to prove a point. He had come to teach a lesson about prejudice, competence, and respect that none of those present would ever forget. And the lesson was just beginning. As new challenges were prepared for distances that would challenge even professional swimmers, a question hung in the tension-filled air. Would Adam continue to surprise everyone? Or would he finally reach the limits of his extraordinary abilities? And more importantly, what other lessons about dignity and determination did a 12-year-old black child still have to teach these adult men who thought they knew their own limits? 6 months after the day that shook Oakwood Country Club, Adam Fletcher walked through the club corridors with a gleaming gold badge pinned to his blazer. Junior Aquatic Elite Coach, Club Exceptional Talent Program. At 13, he had become the youngest person in the club's history to receive such official recognition. That fateful morning had turned into a legendary demonstration. After 2,000 meters, Adam had continued swimming. 5,000, 10,000 meters. Each distance revealed even more impossible stamina and technique when he effortlessly completed an endurance swim that had defeated even seasoned triathletes. Experienced swimmers began to cheer openly. The video of the demonstration, recorded discreetly by club staff present, went viral internationally. Black Boy Humiliates Elitist Club Owner with Impossible Swim racked up 73 million views in 2 weeks. Adam had become a global symbol of overcoming prejudice. For Mister Alistair Finch, the consequences were devastating and definitive. The club investigation that followed revealed a systematic pattern of discriminatory behavior. Dozens of families of less privileged members, including many black and other minority families, came forward with similar accounts of humiliation and prejudice. Photographs of him mocking Adam circulated throughout social media, accompanied by captions such as, "The man who underestimated a legend." Finch was formally removed from his position, his membership revoked, and he was banned from all affiliated clubs. His retirement, planned with full honors, turned into a quiet and embarrassing exit. Even more humiliating, the club restructured its board, now including a diverse group of members from all backgrounds, including prominent Black and minority leaders, some of whom knew his story all too well. Mr. Beaumont and Mr. Caldwell faced official reprimands and were required to participate in intensive workshops on diversity and inclusion. Their standing in the social elite never fully recovered from the stain of having participated in the public humiliation of a Black child. Adam, on the other hand, flourished in ways no one could have predicted. The local swimming federation created a special program allowing him to combine regular studies with advanced aquatic training. Elite universities competed for his future admission with full scholarships. Sports equipment companies wanted to sponsor his development. More importantly, he had inspired an entire generation. Children from marginalized communities, especially young Black boys, sent letters telling how Adam's story motivated them to pursue dreams that seemed impossible. They saw him as proof that competence and determination were more powerful than prejudice. Roberts, promoted to head instructor for his exemplary conduct during the incident, became Adam's official mentor. "Your mother would be bursting with pride," he said one afternoon watching Adam coach new junior swimmers who listened to him with absolute reverence. "But I think she would be even prouder of the man of character you are becoming." The Olympic pool where it all began was officially renamed the Sarah Fletcher Memorial Pool in honor of Adam's mother. A bronze plaque told the story of that transformative day, serving as a permanent reminder that excellence can emerge from the most unexpected places. Adam still visited his mother's grave every Saturday. But now he no longer cried. Instead, he told her about his new records, his achievements, and the prejudices he had broken down during the week. "I did it, Mom," he always whispered at the end. "I showed them what we're capable of." The entire club had changed. Zero-tolerance policies for discrimination were implemented. Talent identification programs in underserved communities became a priority. Adam's story was told in every new member orientation as an example of how prejudice can blind people to extraordinary potential. Most ironic of all, Finch had inadvertently created the exact opposite of what he intended. Instead of humiliating Adam, he had given him the perfect platform to shine in front of witnesses who would never forget what they had seen. His attempt to diminish him had become the catalyst for the greatest transformation in the history of the club. In a television interview 6 months later, Adam was asked if he held a grudge against Mr. Alistair Finch. His response revealed wisdom far beyond his years. "He gave me the greatest gift possible, the opportunity to prove him wrong about me. Sometimes our greatest opponents end up being our best teachers, even if they don't mean to be." Adam Fletcher had learned the most valuable lesson of all. The best revenge is not to destroy those who tried to diminish you, but to grow so much that your achievements become impossible to ignore. He turned humiliation into motivation, prejudice into fuel, and underestimation into super determination. The little Black boy who walked into the club asking permission to honor his mother had become a force of nature who rewrote the rules about human potential, prejudice, and the transformative power of never, ever underestimating someone based solely on appearances.